Welcome. You are at the session in honor of our colleague, Donna Ryan. I am the organizer, Kate Norberg, and this is a panel to celebrate the life and work of Donna F. Ryan, French historian, disability scholar, loyal WSFH member, and bon vivant extraordinaire. Now, Donna was born, Donna was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1948. Here's a younger Donna. She attended Boston, graduated from Boston Girls Latin School and Wheaton College, where I first met her. She died on July 16th, 2012, after a year-long battle with cancer. She received her PhD with distinction from Georgetown University in 1984 with a specialization in modern European and French history. Shortly thereafter, she became a faculty member at Gallaudet College in Washington, D.C., the U.S. College for the Deaf, where she taught until her death in 2012. Now, in 1996, Donna published The Holocaust and the Jews of Marseille, based upon her dissertation, which was published by University of Illinois Press, an extensively researched study of Marseille's Jews during the Vichy regime. This research subsequently led to a significant contribution to deaf history, a special exhibit at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum entitled Varian Fry and the Emergency Rescue Committee in Marseille. She also engaged in important new research with Professor John Schuchtman, Emeritus, Gallaudet College, to preserve and present the experiences of deaf people during the Holocaust, resulting in Deaf People in Hitler's Europe, an international conference that was co-sponsored and produced by the Gallaudet College and the U.S. Holocaust Museum in June 1998. That conference produced an important collection of papers published as Deaf People in Hitler's Europe by Gallaudet University Press and the U.S. Holocaust Museum in 2002. Now, Donna was a dedicated and devoted, loyal member of the Western Society for French History. She was elected to 2 terms on the governing council of the Western Society, an organization in which she was active for her whole career. She attended, to my knowledge, virtually every meeting, from Lafayette, Louisiana, to what I think is Montana. She was also the co-edited between 2008 and 2011 the Proceedings of the Western Society for French History. She was the author of numerous conference papers, encyclopedia entries, book reviews, review essays, and a regular reviewer for H. France. She is survived by her wife, partner, and companion of 25 years, Vicki Ferguson, who is here with us today. Now, the panelists today will contextualize and elaborate on the achievements that I've just mentioned. At the end of the panel, you will have a chance to share your memories of Donna and toast her with champagne. But before our celebration, the panel itself. Our chair and moderator today probably is truly a person who requires no introduction to members of the Western Society for French History. He's very closely identified with the organization. He is Hines Hall, Professor Emeritus, Auburn University, and past president of the Western Society for French History. Take it away, Hines.
Thank you all for being with us today to honor the memory of our friend and fellow scholar, Donna Ryan. I'd like to introduce members of the panel to begin with. And I'm not going to do a formal introduction or an academic introduction, nothing about books and degrees and teaching and all of that. Our first speaker, unfortunately, John Sweets, could not be here. He was taken ill en route here and had to return to Asheville, but I have his remarks, which he sent me, and I shall read his prepared text, not as well as John. John's Professor Emeritus at University of Kansas. He's one of the United States' most noted scholars on the history of Vichy France, and he is an old friend and colleague of Donna's. Our next speaker will be Ann Quartararo, Professor Emerita at the United States Naval Academy, who shared with Donna Ryan a very keen interest and a pioneering scholarship in the field of the history of deaf people, and was also a very good friend for many years. Barry Bergen will be the third speaker. He's Donna's colleague for years and years at Gallaudet University, where he is now professor of history and chair of the department. He will talk to us, I presume, about Donna as a colleague and her teaching at Gallaudet. April Shelford will be our next speaker. April is associate professor of history at American University. She is a longtime member of this society and an old friend of Donna Ryan's, and shared with Donna the very laborious task for 3 years of editing the proceedings of this society, and I know something about how laborious that is from old past experience. Our next speaker will be Ann Butler, who is one of the, I believe, our only panelist who's not in French history primarily. Ann is the trustee professor emerita at Utah State University, but she taught for a number of years at Gallaudet early on in the experience of Donna Ryan at Gallaudet, and became a close colleague and friend of Donna's. Finally, Victoria Thompson, who's associate professor at Arizona State University, who experienced an old and close friendship with Donna, and who attributes to Donna the role of mentor in her career as a developing scholar and teacher. Now, since John is not here, I'm going to begin by reading the text that he has sent. Bear in mind, these are John's words, but they're better than what I could say. Friends and colleagues, it's my privilege to be able to say a few words about my friend and fellow traveler on the long, complicated, and sometimes troubled road that led the French and she and I to explore the history of Vichy France. Or to be more precise, that led Donna to Les Bouches-du-Rhône and Marseille, and me to the Auvergne and Clermont-Ferrand. She and I shared a belief that, when well done, local or regional history has the potential to expand one's understanding of French history beyond a focus that emphasized Paris, national politics, and, quote, the French, unquote. Who are these French anyhow? Can one really know what the French do, feel, or think? By the time that Donna undertook the research that was to lead to her book, The Holocaust and the Jews of Marseille, Michael Marousse and Robert Paxton had already published their classic work, Vichy France and the Jews, with a general thesis that although most French officials involved in the process probably did not intend to murder French and foreign Jews, their discriminatory legislation and direct participation in census-taking, roundups, and concentration of foreign Jews in camps made the process of deportation and eventual slaughter much easier for the Nazi occupiers of France. As have most historians, Donna agreed with their general argument. The originality and the great merit of Donna's work was to focus on Vichy policy at the local level as opposed to the decision-making process at the top. If Marousse and Paxton show us who at Vichy decided what and why, in her superb local portrait of the Mediterranean port city of Marseille, Donna showed us exactly what happened to individual Jews as a result of those decisions by the Vichy leaders. Ironically, in the first years of the war, Marseille was seen by many Jews as a haven through which they might pass to safety in the United States or other final destinations. But when Hitler began the implementation of the genocide of millions, Marseille became instead a trap in which several thousand French and foreign Jews were caught. The destruction of the old port in January 1943 and the thorough roundup of Jews that accompanied it served as a poignant illustration of Donna's argument that whether or not they knew the final destination of the deportees, the assistance of French officials and police forces was critical to the Nazis' success. In contrast to other regions of France where the population seems to have been somewhat more supportive of the Jews and where authorities exhibited less energy in their persecution, Marseille represented a worst-case scenario where the official bureaucracy and the police systematically and methodically, quote, did their jobs, unquote, and those who objected or refused to obey orders were exceptionally rare. One of the most original sections of her book concerned the Aryanization of businesses and professions at Marseille. At the time of the book's publication, no other study explained this process in terms of what happened to individual people in such vivid detail. The author's discussion of the Professional Medical Association was particularly instructive regarding the aggressive fashion in which Jews were eliminated from active participation in French public life. Her study also included an interesting and informative consideration of the actions of French and international relief and rescue operations at Marseille, noting that their efforts were hampered by French government obstructionism, but occasionally by their own misguided ideas and the failure of outside powers, including the United States, to acknowledge the urgency and desperation of the situation facing the Jews. Overall, when it appeared in 1996, The Holocaust and the Jews of Marseille was an excellent addition to the growing scholarly literature on the treatment of the Jews in Vichy France. Donna's research was exceptionally rich and her argument was compelling. I believe that it is still true today that a reader who wishes to know about the discriminatory actions of the Vichy government, to know how the discriminatory actions of the Vichy government affected ordinary Jewish citizens and the foreign Jews, will find no better general introduction in English than her book. I would add that the importance of her work was immediately recognized by French scholars working on the subject of the Holocaust and France. I think that the recognition in France by the leading authorities in the field spoke volumes about the value of Donna's research and writing. Donna was also a wonderful commentator at Western Society for French History meetings, especially appreciated by our younger colleagues with whom she employed a combination of insightful observations and gentle criticism to suggest ways in which their work might be improved. 3 of my own graduate students told me how much they appreciated Donna's comments about their first scholarly papers and the recommendations she gave them in the following weeks about archival resources or people with whom they might wish to speak when doing research in France. In my opinion, she represented mentorship at its best. I would like to conclude with 2 other observations. In addition to her excellence as a scholar, Donna was also extremely knowledgeable in the area of food and wine.
And not metal.
As you know, the Western society has always been the setting for conspicuous consumption by groups of its members of the best conspicuous consumption of the best local cuisine in whatever city we meet. In the earliest days of our existence, Bert Gordon was our food guru, regular leading groups of 8 to 10 of us to a restaurant he selected, and even passing around little cards for us to fill in that related to his new interest in food history. I'm looking for Bert. Is he? I don't think he's here. Okay. I finally, okay. But shortly after Donna joined our ranks, she began to offer suggestions that many of us liked, and we began to think of her as another guru in our organization. I fondly remember many meals and bottles of wine shared in her company with others of our colleagues and the fascinating conversations that Donna often sparked as we ordered the second bottle of wine. And maybe there were third and other bottles coming along after that. These shared meals were often for me the highlight of the annual meeting. Finally, as I am sure, had they been with us today, her four-footed furry children would testify from first-hand experience. Donna was a wonderfully caring dog person. At conferences, when my wife, Renee, was able to join me, she and Donna would invariably reach into their purses for the latest photos of their doggy children to share. And this, too, helped to define the person that Donna Ryan was. Friend, scholar, mentor, lover of fine food and wine, and best friend to man and woman's best friend. She was, in short, a wonderful human being with whom it was a privilege for me, to have known. Thank you, John.